Dude, yeah, it's been a crazy one, and I'm excited for this segment. I don't know about you. Hello everyone, welcome to Hearthstone Meta Hype. I am Equal 100th, my friend Venga Dragon. How's it going, Venga?
It is going well. We are in the mix and things are looking up. You know, we got to keep it positive and hype. That's what we do, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's been a crazy one, and I'm excited for this segment. I don't know about you, but there are announcements coming out soon, and just stuff in general I want to talk about. So I'm excited to get started with this.
Yeah, well, I said surprise me. And if we were gonna surprise the audience with what we're talking about, there's so much on the horizon. It's just amazing.
No, yeah. But my thing actually isn't about the new stuff. I'm gonna leave that for you and your segment. Mine is actually about some old content that I made a little while ago, and people have asked me about it just in general, and it's how to improve at Hearthstone and get Legend. And I feel like with the new year coming, and probably an influx of players, or people like getting ready to climb to Legend for the first time, I think it's an important time to come up with these topics. So the first thing that I think you should do in order to get better at the game of Hearthstone is a thing that I like to call perfect practice. So, you know, they say practice makes perfect, yeah?
Yes.
Well, that's actually not true. Like, if you practice something incorrectly, you'll start to develop bad habits, and then you'll just do that, right? So if you practice playing the coin on turn 1 every single game so you can hero power, you might start getting in your head like, hey, this is the correct thing. Or if you just have the wrong form in a sport, that could hinder you down the road once you start playing against better people just in general. So you have to make sure that you practice perfectly. You got to look at every decision that you can make sure you're making the right decision, and there are a lot of ways that you can do this. You can do this by playing with a friend, you can do this by looking at replays or whatever, and just making sure you don't make the same mistakes. And if you do make a mistake, fix it and practice not making that mistake later on, like playing into removal or any of those other things. What do you think about this tip?
Well, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's something that is so true. It's like, I was at one point a semi-pro bowler, and
What?
Yeah.
Dude, I learned something new about you like every single time. This is crazy.
Back in the day in New York, I was like one year I was ranked. I was the number 2 bowler on Long Island in New York. Yeah. And,
oh my God.
And so
I'm gonna have to talk to you about this after.
Yeah. We will. And we got so. One of the things is that I totally understand what you're talking about, because there's a lot of ways that you can make bad habits in bowling, and one of the things that if you're, so to compare it to Hearthstone, if you emulate something that's wrong, you're automatically giving yourself a disadvantage. And so exactly that, if you practice the wrong delivery, so like say you get to the line with the wrong foot on the, you know, that you're pushing off of or leaning on at the end of the stroke, you're giving yourself not only a physical handicap, but it could challenge you mentally as well. So practicing perfect is absolutely it's just a great tip. And I just on a side note with the bowling thing, the player that I emulated and was his name was Earl Anthony, and he was a lefty bowler. I was a righty, but he had a beautiful, perfect delivery, and he moved up, and I was the first person that I emulated, and that's what helped me get my success in the game.
Dude, actually that bowling thing is so cool. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. That's so cool. I knew you played poker.
Yeah.
I didn't know you also bowled.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Five nights a week, man. I was bowling 5 nights a week. We used to bowl action. We did all kinds of really cool stuff. It was like you'd be betting like $50-$100 a game and chilling out, and everybody be betting on you, and it was just great. Action bowling was one of the funnest things, one of the best days of my life, really. Best times.
Yeah. I bowled like 1 to 2 times a week a couple of years ago and everything. Dude, bowling is so much fun. But anyway, back to Hearthstone. We could talk about this in our own time, because I will bring this back up.
Yeah.
But the next thing is just getting a deck tracker. I know that this one isn't the biggest tip, but deck trackers actually help a lot. ever since I got a deck tracker, and the Hearthstone tracker I use is just called Hearthstone Deck Tracker, for those of you who want to know. I get this question a lot, actually, and it's just nice to know what's left in your deck, right? Just without having to like remember what cards have I played, just having that off to the side, like, okay, I've got like one Brawl left in my Warrior deck, so maybe I should save some of my other removal just in case or whatever. Some Hearthstone deck trackers can give you odds of drawing the next card, like you have a 4% chance of drawing this card if there's one copy in the deck, 8% if it's got two. It also can give you a little timer for when your turn is going to be up, and there are a lot of a lot of little features. The biggest thing, actually, the most important thing with Hearthstone Deck Tracker, there are two that are the most important that I use all the time, is tracking your opponent's hand, telling you what turn your opponent drew each card. So instead of having to remember that like I used to do, you just know. So you can know if a person has kept a card since turn 1 or like 0 or 2 or something, and you're like, okay, that's either some crazy removal or a big bomb card, and you can kind of play around that. And then the other thing is that it automatically records some of your games already, which is something that I linked with Perfect Practice, just like watch your recordings and stuff. And it automatically does that, and it can just be opened in the browser, and it's not like super high quality recordings or anything, but it's just like, this is what happened every single turn, and it's pretty helpful.
Yeah, well, it actually also will show you what was in your opponent's hand as well too, based on what they throw out there. So if they had played a card that you get, if you get to see it at some point in the game, it shows in their hand. And that particular aspect can help you in reading your opponent's hand. And a lot of people don't realize that if a card is in your opponent's opener, right? If it's something, you not only do you have to pay attention to what is being held in their hand since the beginning, but you also have to make sure that it was when it was part of the mulligan process, right? If it's something that it didn't discard, and then you figure out that you're up against a specific archetype, then it's easy to kind of read your opponent's hand and know exactly where you're going to be out through the state of the game. So the Hearthstone Deck Tracker is an absolutely great tool, and one of the things about it is that it's something that you can invest in, or you don't have to invest in. I think I spend the $5 a month, and I think it's completely worth it to buy that product, because you get to see the levels and how your decks your particular deck that you're using ranks up against other decks or different archetypes. So it could be really helpful. And just one last thing on this, because it's kind of related to it, I think that Hearthstone Deck Tracker was one of the main reasons why I made Legends so quickly in January and December. And the reason why is because I was able to look at what was popular in the meta, find a counter to it, and play the counter. And like, so the satisfaction that I got was, instead of playing Rogue and being like, okay, Rogue is dominating and I'm going to get to Legend, what I'm going to do is I'm going to counter Rogue. And I went 90% win rate against Rogue in February even too. And that was it. There was like 12 games against that. I think I went 12-1, something like that. And you get those 12 wins, then if you're like 40 or 50% against everything else, you're gonna get there.
Yeah, that one win rate will carry you. Yeah. I get that. Yeah, it's like you're countering the meta. You're using it to help you figure out what the like secret OP deck is.
Yeah, that's kind of a different thing, and it's like something that a lot of people won't do, and that's one of the things about me that I enjoy. Instead of playing the meta, I try to counter the meta. And I don't think that's really the best tip though for making Legend, but it's an aspect of getting there. It's just something I do. A lot of times I think it's better just to play what's popular and powerful and go from there.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, that's what I would recommend most people. Don't try to counter the meta unless you're like
insane
already in Legend, I guess. Like, you already have a good understanding. Until then, just play whatever's strong. Just go with it.
Yeah, in other words, don't take my advice of what I just said.
I mean, you can as well. Like, if you're just like, you know what, man? Ramp Paladin, really grinds my gears, I'm gonna make a deck that counters it, and like it can still work. It's not a problem. It's just you need to know going in that it might not necessarily have the highest win rate, but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's all about how well you play the deck.
Yep, it's true. And I think you said there was 2 points. So you had the first one. Was there a second point of the deck tracker, or did we cover both?
I think we covered both. I think I said the first one was keeping track of what's in the opponent's hand,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure I said both. I kind of forgot now because we started talking about this one so much. Shoot.
Yeah, so to the audience, if we didn't cover both, put down in the comments
That is my
what
bad.
happened to the second one. You know?
Yeah.
It was like both of us forgot, which is like, despite forgetting what day it usually is, like we forget what day it is, and sometimes now we're forgetting what we're talking about. It's quite very much like Ecor and myself. We just talk so much that we forget what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Like, we just go off on tangents, and then they're like, okay, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Wait, what were we talking about in the first place?
It's
like, what's even the topic of this video?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I don't think people realize how much you and I actually love to do this show, and just like to thank everybody that takes a listen and stuff. So we always have a good time, and just if we go off topic, so be it. But let's get it. What's the other reason? How else can we get to Legend? I want to know. Tell me how.
Yeah, well, there are 2 more main tips that I would like to give, and the next of these is just the question you should always ask yourself before you make a play is, how can I be punished for this? Or also, how can I punish the opponent for what they're about to do? Just like, how can you punish a play?
Yep.
And I think this is important to note, because this will help you from overcommitting to the board. This could help you from like using your burn damage, your combo a little bit too soon, and just hoping that it works out the next couple of turns, right? I'd say the biggest one for this, though, is just paying attention to how many minions you have on the board. Like, if you already have a couple of strong minions, and say you're playing against a warrior or a warlock, and you're like, okay, I've got like 2 strong minions and like 1 small minion out on the board, and don't play extra minions and play into like a Twisting Nether if they're about to have 8 mana or something.
Yeah.
Just hold on to some of those cards. Don't necessarily overcommit. Think, okay, if I play this, it looks like I have more damage on the board, but what could he do in response? And like, oh, he could Twisting Nether, or oh, maybe he's corrupted his Cascading Disasters and he just kills my minions anyway. Like, you always got to think, what can my opponent do to punish? And also, like I said, think about what you can do to punish the opponent. Like, think about what they're going to do next turn, and think about what you'll do the turn after that. So kind of think a whole turn ahead.
Yeah.
And just try to predict and figure out what you're going to do and what your opponent's going to do, so that way you can best figure out what to do on that current turn.
Yeah.
And to see if your prediction's correct, and then go from there.
Yeah, the thing is sometimes you may not be correct, but when you are, it's just so satisfying. And when you make the correct play, you can kind of get excited. But when you make the wrong play, you shouldn't beat yourself up either. There's a difference between being accountable and beating yourself up. And sometimes the goal is obviously to play perfect. But when perfection doesn't happen, don't worry about it. Like, it's gonna happen that you're gonna make errors and stuff. It's just, the thing is, I think avoiding huge errors is the way to do it. Like, to avoid errors in general is the goal. But again, if you're making errors, you make small ones. Don't make big ones. And that idea of leaving 1 minion back and not playing into a Twisting Nether is pretty strong, because think of it like this. Let's say that you have a 6 attack and say like a 6 and a 5. By putting up a 3rd minion, for another 4 attack or something like that, it could be literally 0. It just doesn't do anything, because they get so 8 mana will counter your board, right? And you know what I'm saying? So you kind of have to leave something back to that you're like for the next turn. But there's an idea, like, let's say that you are on turn 8 and you had a kind of a cool board that you put down. Like, and they played Twisting Nether, and then now the chances of them playing it again, per se, may not be so much. So there's where you can kind of go wider, maybe, that they would have back-to-back twistings, something like that. So.
Yeah. Like, you can be greedy if they've already used one copy of their removal, because statistically it's unlikely they have a second.
Right.
But until they play that first one, it's just better to play safe. Because like you said, it's better to make a small mistake and be like, oh darn, they didn't have Twisting Nether. I guess maybe I could have played that minion and pushed a little more damage. Mm-hmm. That is better than making a big mistake, playing the minion, getting Twisting Nether that next turn, and thinking, okay, well, now I've got nothing left. Like, if I'd saved that 4/5 minion, I could have played that and had a little bit of pressure on the board again that I could use to win the game later on.
Yeah.
So making smaller mistakes is way better than making one or two smaller mistakes is better than making one giant mistake that could lose you the game.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like when you're thinking about planning future turns, the thing is you also have to see like exactly that. What would you like? Let's just say that we're talking about Twisting Nether just because it's just such an overwhelmingly great board clear, right? It just clears the board at no questions asked, pretty much, right? Yeah. So the thing is you can structure your next turn to say, okay, well, I'm gonna not play into Twisting Nether, and then I'm gonna be like, what is my goal? In other words, like, what am I actually trying to do? Am I trying to like just put pressure on the guy for the sake, or is there a reason? And based on what cards I have in my hand, do I even have something to play next turn? So it's kind of weird. You just gotta decide what your intentions are on every single street when you're playing. Are you the aggressor or are you the defender?
Yeah.
You got to think about what your answer is going to be as well. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not only just about you. You have to think about what happens next, right?
Yeah. And all these things go for using removal as well, just in general. Like, do I save the Twisting Nether because I think he might have another card in the hand?
Yeah.
That could be important to remove. Like, is he holding back?
Yep.
Is it worth using on 2 minions? Like, if you're the defender?
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes both ways, too. It's kind of interesting because, like removal is actually, in my opinion, more important than the minions themselves. So it really determines, like, how you're going to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, can I get punished by using my removal now and then having him on turn 9 play like 2 or 3 minions that are all medium size, and I'm sitting there like, oh shoot, I've got nothing left.
Yeah. Interestingly, on that tip, like the other day I was playing against a ramp paladin, and I had the board clear for an early board removal on turn 2. I was playing warrior, and I could have cleared their board. And I just, like, in the back of my mind, I said, what's the worst case scenario that could happen, right? Maybe I should save this, and I won't do it right here. Whatever reason, I mean, the guy just went so wide on me, right? And built up a board that I just couldn't clear on turn 3 or turn 4. I couldn't even clear it. And now I'm like, okay, the worst case scenario was actually worse than I thought it was going to be.
Than what I thought it was going to be. Like, it exceeded my expectations.
So, and the probability of that worst case scenario that actually happened was low, but it did. But it happened, and I was like, oh, that was rough. I wound up losing the game on later turns, but it was directly reliant on that it wasn't necessarily a terrible decision on my part, but it wasn't a good one. So
yeah.
And it happens, but you just move on and you learn from it. Like, you have to. That's why watching your replays, like Ecor talks about, is just so important. You can watch them, but I think that if I could give a bonus tip on this as well, when you're watching your replays, a lot of times people will focus in on what mistakes they made. There is a case to be made about what you did well. Sometimes you should focus on what you did well over what you did wrong, because activity of positivity breeds positivity overall in your game. So if you're doing something well and you realize and it worked out well for you, focus in on that. It gives you a positive mind frame, and then don't let the small mistakes or the big mistakes be like you're oh, that was horrible, and focus in on those. It makes for a negative environment, and when there's negativity, you don't have as much ability to absorb and learn. That's just my.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Go to school.
Well,
eat core, stay in school.
Yeah. Dude, school's so stressful. I don't want to talk about school right now. I just wrote a 3.6 thousand word essay in like 2 days. It was terrible. Found sources, like 12 pages. Oh, we're not talking about school. Anyway, the last tip is just going to be quick because it is, we've been going on this for a while, is ironically focus. Like, we cannot seem to focus on this show. We go off on tangents. We talk about things for way too long. And it's kind of ironic that my last tip here is focus, but just honestly just focus on the game. Don't have other stuff in the background. And this isn't to say that you can't have distractions, but just know that if you have a distraction, like you're playing Hearthstone while watching a Netflix show, or you're just playing on your phone a little bit while you're waiting for something to happen, but you're like distracted, just know that that's not necessarily going to help you climb. But if you're just playing for fun, like, that's entirely fine as well. And just like, yeah, it's important to know why you're playing the game too, I guess, because if it is a mostly for fun thing that's just in the background, this tip might not be that important for you. But if you're trying to make that push to, say, like Diamond or Legend or even Platinum, which you haven't done before, really focusing on the game really helps with all of the tips I already gave you, like focusing on the information the deck tracker is giving you, focusing on practicing perfectly, and focusing on what's on the board so that way you can see how something could be punished or whatever, and just, yeah, not being distracted, because I can't tell you how many times where I'm playing on stream and I'll be looking at chat, and then I'll come back and I'll make a play because I'm like, oh shoot, I have like 25 seconds left to make my play because I was answering a question on stream. My win rate off stream is like 7% higher than it is on stream. Yeah. Like, that's how important distractions can be. And obviously I'm more distracted than most people would be because I'm like literally looking back and forth constantly. But even so, even if it's just like a minor distraction, like just a Netflix show in the background that you're just glancing at over every couple of minutes or whatever and just listening to in the background, you could be lowering your win rate by like 3%, which is actually a pretty big deal because every extra game you lose is one game you're not winning. So you could think of it as like a flip of 2 stars as opposed to just 1.
Yeah.
You're losing out on getting a star. You're not just losing a star. And the same thing goes for legend ranks. You're losing ranks and not gaining ranks. Like, you're missing out on that. So I don't know. Focusing is just important, in my opinion.
Well, I'm gonna add in another bonus tip for you here. That I totally agree with. The distractions is really important. But one of the things that I've spoke to Ecor about, and we were speaking about like getting to legend, and there was like a time where I was just like struggling a lot. And I'm like, what's going on? Blah blah blah. Like, just gotta get there. This and that. And Ecor said to me, and this is probably one of the things that helped me the most, was he said, treat every game like it's Diamond 5. Like you're at Diamond 5. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're like, if you're at Diamond rank 1 and you're ready to get to Legend, treat it like it's game 5, like it's Diamond 5. It's no different. You just your goal is to win the game anyway. So don't.
Yeah, adding that extra stress of being Diamond 1 is only going to make you play worse. Like, it's the same thing with becoming tilted.
Yeah.
Like, once you get into a kind of bad mindset, you're just going to play worse.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if you play League of Legends or know anybody who has, but my win rate is pretty high. But I have failed my promos to go from gold to platinum 7 times. Even though I get back immediately, it's like, for Hearthstone purposes, I'm Diamond 1, and I've lost to the final boss 7 or 8 times in a row. Because every time I go into that final game, my mindset's off. And I'm like, well, this is a more important game than any other game, so I get in my own head and just don't do that.
Exactly it. I mean, if you treat every game like it's Diamond 5, when you get to Diamond 1, you will get to Legend. And I think
you'll just play better in general.
It's just one of the best tips that I heard, and just and more to add on to that as well. It doesn't matter, guys, if you get to Legend or not. Just because like Legend is a goal, it's not the end. It's like so it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It's just about getting better, and eventually you'll get to that Legend. Eventually you'll get to that point where all of your hard work and like getting better at the game pays off.
Yeah. And that journey is the one that you should enjoy the most. Getting there and learning. There's lots of ways that you can enjoy Hearthstone, and getting getting to Legend is just one of them. It's not the be all and end all. It's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not the be all and end all. Enjoy Hearthstone the way you want to enjoy it. Don't be so pressed about Legend. You'll get there.
Yeah.
So
well, those are all the tips that I had.
That's great. I really like the topic a lot, and I think the audience will enjoy it as well. And this is the Hearthstone Meta Hype. You know what we do here, we always chill out. I just wanted to mention also though that we still got that giveaway going on. Right? It is
link is still down in the description, by the way, for those of you watching on my YouTube.
Yep, the link will be down there. We're going to give away three 7-packs. Maybe I might add some more prizes to that, but for now we got 3 7-packs going out to you guys, so there's chances to win, and you can do that. Link in the description. Make sure before you get out of here you also give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to eCore's channel. Do yourself a favor, make sure you do it, because he's putting out videos all the time and you're gonna miss all the good stuff. Hit that like and the bell too, so that you know when the next video goes live. And go on over to Hearthstone Meta Hype on Mega Dragon right now for the second segment, where we're going to talk about what we want to see in the next expansion.